LiSTNR production.
Hey, welcome to this bonus episode of The Briefing. Sacha Barbour Gatt with you.
The Wicked Witch can't elude us forever.
Wonderful Wizard of Oz. No one believed in you more than I did.
It is one of the most hyped movie releases of the year, and this week, the Wicked sequel, Wicked for Good, will drop at Aussie cinemas.
I'm off to see the wizard.
Whether you're a fan of the flick or not, you might remember how bonkers the press tour went last year when the first movie was being promoted. So we thought, what better time to look back at all the crazy viral moments from that time? Today's bonus is my chat with LiSTNR entertainment reporter Justin Hill. I hope you enjoy.
Popular, you're gonna be popular.
It has been among the most anticipated films in recent memory, the screen adaptation of the hit Broadway musical Wicked. Starring Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo, Jeff Goldblum and Jonathan Bailey, the story of the two Witches of Oz has opened to a lot of hype, making over $10 million at the Aussie box office in its opening weekend. And whether you love it, hate it, or are indifferent, you probably haven't been able to escape the virality of the movie's press tour. From crying reporters to holding space.
Holding space with that.
The world has either laughed, cried, or cringed at each viral moment. Both Ariana and Cynthia have come out to defend their actions on the press tour after being criticised for being too emotional. Some detractors say the whole thing descended into insanity. So why the hype and emotion over a movie? And at the end of the day, are we as a society so cynical of genuine joy and pleasure that we're desperate to tear down what essentially is a couple of theatre kids living their dreams? Justin Hill joins me now. He's a Wicked obsessive and host of LiSTNR's The Streaming Service. Justin, welcome back to The Briefing. Look, can you start by trying to explain to us why there has been so much hype around this movie?
I think it probably has to go one step back to the musical and why people love that so much. So I've been trying to explain this to people recently as a fan of the musical and the movie. I've seen the musical 4 times. I've seen the movie twice. The movie is like 2 hours and 40 minutes and it's only part 1. The thing is with the character of Elphaba who has green skin, she's bullied for her greenness, right? It's the thing that goes all throughout the film. And I think that in a real life application, you can take that greenness and you can basically replace it with anything. Anyone who's been bullied for the way that they look, you know, their gender, their sexual preference, like any of that kind of stuff, you can kind of relate to what this character is going through. So I think because it is such an unusual thing of like, you know, the fact that someone is green in a world where no one else is green, so many people can be like, oh my God, that's me. Or that was, you know, I remember feeling like that, or those feelings, or people saying things like that to me. And so the love of the musical has translated to the film. And the other thing that I've been saying to people is when you go and see this musical, you see it from essentially the same perspective, no matter where you're sitting in the theatre. When you watch it in the film, you're seeing it in 3D. You're being fully immersed into the world. You're seeing things up close that you've never seen up close before, unless you are sitting literally at the front of the theatre. You're seeing the grand scale of like Oz and Shiz University. So the movie has given us that kind of like 3-dimensional look at a world that we've loved for over 20 years now.
Okay. Oh, that was a good explanation. I appreciate it. Now, I'm a neutral, so I'm excited to see the movie, but I've seen the stage play once, and that was this year. So I'm definitely coming into it kind of like half in, half out. I don't know what to think of it. Now, the excitement for the premiere had been building for a while, and then it had its Australian premiere, which was also happened to be the world premiere. Now, you attended that here in Australia, here in Sydney. How was it?
Wild. Like just, I mean, I've been to some of the biggest premieres in the world and they are electric. Like when you turn up, there's this feeling of like something exciting is about to happen. I don't think I've ever seen that street of where the theatre was so packed for any premiere. And like I've been there when Zendaya has been there, Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt, like you name it, I've done a red carpet premiere at that location and I've never seen the street so packed full of people because you've got that appeal of not only the musical, the people that love the musical, the people that love Ariana Grande, the people that love Cynthia Erivo, Jonathan Bailey, Bridgerton fans, like you literally had so many fan bases all converging on one spot. And so the event itself was like nothing I've ever been to. It was just insane. They actually had a yellow brick road there, like it was was wild.
Now, I mentioned earlier that one of the more talked about aspects of this press tour has been how emotional reporters, and I count you among them, have been getting while interviewing the stars Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo. Now, you sat down with both of them and you opened the chat like this.
Ariana and Cynthia, I want to start this by saying thank you. Thank you. I give you my gratitude for taking care of these characters and how you have put so much thought and effort into taking care of them for us. As a fan of this musical, it was just magical and emotional to see you on screen and just see fans of the characters playing them. So thank you. It just means so much to all of us.
Thank you. Now, that clearly is something very personal to you. Why is it so personal?
For a few reasons. It kind of makes me feel a bit emotional hearing it back, to be honest, because firstly, I think what people have to understand is that I had 4 minutes with them. I wanted to make a really good impression. I wanted to tell them from a fan's perspective how the movie and their, I guess, rendition of the characters made me feel on behalf of the fans. So when I was researching to do this interview, I knew that I had to really come up with some powerful questions and some powerful statements. I research like a fan and I am a fan of the musical, so I wanted to pass on a message, and I just figured that like they were going to get this a lot on the press tour. They're going to get a lot of people speaking to them and a lot of people saying that over and over. But like you said, it was the first time that they were doing press, like proper sit-down press for this ever, and I just wanted to convey to them that it meant a lot, and I also didn't want them to be like, oh, guys, another press interview of someone who didn't really understand the film or doesn't understand the lore of it.
It's so interesting. It's how personal it has become. Now, I mentioned Australia was the first stop on the press tour, and you were the first I saw to take this approach. And then it kind of kept happening as the film moved around the country. Whether you're to blame, I don't know.
Probably.
But some people were saying like, oh, it's all just getting a bit overdone, like people preening over these women. And then also the women's reaction to it. Cynthia and Ariana were both quite generous with their emotions throughout this press tour. Do you think the Australian media, including yourself, was what set the tone for this entire press tour?
I think it might have been, and I'll explain to you how I think this happens. I feel like this movie is Barbie all over again. And do you remember when we had Barbie and the press was happening for Barbie and everyone was like dressing in pink and everyone was like, coming up with like creative questions because they wanted to have the next viral moment with Margot Robbie? This is the same thing all over again. So what happens is I think we set the tone here in Australia that, we kind of like wanted to have emotional moments with these stars. A lot of people around the world tried to replicate that. And that has happened to me before when I've done interviews. For example, I did an interview with Tom Cruise. He told me a fantastic story about how he cut his own hair and did his own hair and makeup when he was doing Mission Impossible because they were in COVID. And then that kind of went viral and went around the world and it's great. But then the hilarious thing is you see other people repeating your question on the press tour. So people sometimes want to recreate what you've done and some people directly rip it. And I think that's kind of what's happened here. They've gone, oh my goodness, the way Ariana and Cynthia are approaching this is they are giving their all. They are opening up their hearts and they're being very emotional about it. And there were a lot of tears on the press junket day. Like everyone, like many, many people were walking out. It was either tears with Ariana and Cynthia or they would walk out of like Jeff Goldblum and Jonathan Bailey and be like, what the hell was that? Because he is so chaotic in the most wonderful way. So I feel like people around the world were then kind of like, I'm seeing what the theme is here. I'm seeing how vulnerable they're willing to be. I too want to replicate this and have an emotional moment with them. And I think they were very patient. Like they were very honest and emotional. And, you got to understand they filmed this movie a while back. They've now come back together to talk about it. It's bringing up a lot of memories and a lot of feelings. It's not like they filmed it last week. And then all of a sudden they're being like, oh, that's right. Remember last week and it was hilarious. They're going, remember a year ago when we wrapped this film and remember all of the emotions. And then the stories start coming out and there's a lot of emotion attached to it.
So that I can appreciate. But then this moment went viral.
People are taking the lyrics of Defying Gravity and really holding space with that and feeling power in that.
I didn't know that was happening.
I've seen it, yeah.
That's really powerful. I didn't know that was happening.
I've seen it on a couple posts. I don't know how widespread, but, I am in queer media, so that's my,
It's really cool.
Okay, that's where they lost me on this tour. What on earth were they talking about? And surely this was proof that it had kind of descended into empty platitudes at that point.
I think, again, it was just trying to find an emotional moment. Listen to the music in the background of that video. It is a beautiful violin rendition of the song. So I think that they probably were kind of like, how do we answer this? Like, and also too, holding space for something is a beautiful term, but it's a little bit like if someone says, I'm giving you your flowers. And a lot of people are like, what does that mean? And it's a term where like, you're kind of like telling someone they've done a great job. Holding space is like, giving it a moment or just giving it kind of like, raising it up and highlighting the songs and the lyrics and things like that. So, but I do feel like it was an odd kind of answer that she wasn't aware that was happening.
Yeah.
Because I was like, we all seen it. Like,
she just acted like it was the most groundbreaking revelation. And I was like, what is happening? Apparently the journo has since come out to make it clear that she was referencing the result of the US election. And I suppose maybe from what you've explained to us about Defying Gravity and that song and Elphaba, the others, people who have been bullied and teased for their sexuality or what they look like, don't feel a bit othered by a Donald Trump America. So maybe that gives it a little bit more context.
Maybe editing it out, parts out of it doesn't help either. And I think on the internet, when you do upload something, even if she uploaded it with that full context, the fans can rip the video and post it elsewhere, which has happened to a lot of my stuff. And then you don't get the full context of what was going on. And then you often find yourself explaining the situation. So that makes so much more sense.
Okay, maybe I can hold space
yes,
to give
please do.
A little bit of leeway.
Hold a pinky and hold space.
Now, I want to ask, the people who are criticising this, do you think that the movie's just not for them and what this represents isn't for them?
I think that you can't do a project these days without any haters. I think there are always going to be people that don't like something. Like, it's like that friend you've got when you say to them how blue the sky is and they're like, it's not blue, it's looking more cloudy and white today. They always have to argue with you about something. And I think that's the case with Wicked, is that there are people in the world that see fans that are just loving this movement and just so grateful for it. And they kind of go, I don't actually feel like this, but I'm going to be the person that doesn't like it. I'm going to be the voice that comes out and says, actually, I thought it was a bit crap. And that happens all the time. It happened with Barbie. It happens with the big releases. There are always people who feel like, even if they truly, genuinely don't feel this way, they've got to have the opposing opinion to the general consensus of the audience. And so I think that like there's always going to be those people, and that's perfectly fair, because if we all just loved everything all the time, then we would not be having conversations about themes or stories or breaking it down or why stuff's important.
Yeah, that's such a good point. Also, I mean, do you think there's an element of sexism that we're just uncomfortable with women being so openly emotional and people in turn celebrating that?
Yeah, let's talk about the pay dispute. The story that came out was that Ariana Grande got paid $15 million and Cynthia Erivo got $1 million. That came out of absolute thin air and is not true. The film company have since come out and said, no, incorrect. They both got paid the same amount of money. So people are so quick to jump on the bandwagon to be like, there's too many good things about this film. There's too many good things about this musical. Let's fabricate something to bring it down. And I think that that's a horrible thing to do. And it puts people in awkward positions where they have to be like, no, actually, they got paid fairly. Like, and whereas like talking about money can be, tacky and cheap, and why cheapen it by doing that? But there are people out there who just will be like, oh, this will be a great way to get a headline. Let's make something up.
Look, Justin, we have to leave it there, but I can probably guess. I'd love to hear your review of Wicked and how many stars you'd give it.
I would give it like 10 out of 10 stars.
Really?
Yeah, I think there was a lot of pressure on John M. Chu to come up with a good film. There was a lot of pressure on Cynthia and Ariana to deliver great roles. The thing is that John went into this and he knew that he had to do a really, really good job. There was no a 110% was the minimum. And I think when you've got people like Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo who have a childhood connection to these roles, there was no way that they were going to let this be released without it being amazing. And I think this is probably a new wave of artists where you're seeing them go, we will do what it takes to make this successful, instead of being, well, you paid me to do this role and I'm contractually obliged to do press for it, so I'll do it. This is a completely different genre of people from the stars in the leading roles to the director to the choreographers to everyone. Everyone was like, this must be successful and it must be a movie for the fans. And I feel that's what they delivered.
All right, so you're watching it a third time?
Yeah, for sure.
I'll watch it once.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Justin.
My pleasure.
That was listeners' entertainment reporter Justin Hill speaking with me there. Thank you so much for joining us here at The Briefing on a Sunday. Enjoy the rest of your weekend and I'll catch you tomorrow.